Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough. I'm Dr. Debi Silber, and today's guest is Monica Bennett. And Monica is an empowerment coach, teaching the laws of nature to live in joy and harmony with yourself, the community, and the world. Monica is available to give mindset training talks and workshops for corporations, groups, and businesses. She also has a doctorate degree in naturopathy, is a certified reflexologist, certified Nia dancer, and a certified biodynamic gardener. She has traveled the world exploring energy and nature. She has just written a book entitled How May I Serve? Memoirs of a Spiritual Waitress. Our next guest holds a special place in my heart. She was one of the Fab 14, one of the strong and vulnerable women in my study that shared her story so that other women can benefit by what she's learned. She's an amazing coach, leader, and healer, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Here's Monica. Okay, just wait until you hear this conversation. I'm going to be introducing you to Monica Bennett, and she has such a special place in my heart because, I talk about the study all the time. Well, Monica happened to have been one of my study participants. So, first of all, welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and from what I heard from a lot of the study participants, first of all, it changed my life and it changed a lot of their lives as well. Just even answering some of those questions, it was so confronting, some of the questions that you had to answer, right? And it was confronting, but what I loved so much, and I want to talk about what the experience was like for you, the motivation for so many of the women for just to even participate was they wanted to help women going forward and learn from what they experienced. What was your experience?
Well, for me, I did the work before, so I've been through the process already, but you can always go into layers. I'm still doing work because there's layers and layers and layers that you can just keep on diving deeper and finding a little bit more of what our triggers are, what our motives are, what our addictions are, why we don't communicate the way we could to really enable us to move forward in our lives. So it's always going deeper and deeper. And the questions that you presented to me and the others really gave me a chance to look deeper, look even deeper into the what happened in my life that I was betrayed. And once you start looking and become aware of those things, you have understanding. And once you have understanding, then you can get clarity. Mm-hmm. And once you have the clarity, then you can start to move forward and be able to express and communicate what it was that happened to me or what people did to me that caused these emotional upsets in my mind and in the body, because the body really is a manifestation of the mind.
Absolutely. And I remember some of your responses. They were just so profound. And there was such clarity. There was such understanding around what you learned from your experience. Can you share, and you could go into as much or as little as you like, but about your betrayal experience and what you learned because of it?
Well, I played the victim in my life for a long time. So, and I didn't understand why. I knew both my parents were Holocaust survivors, and that alone is very traumatic. And my father's upbringing, I can't even imagine what he went through. And he was an angry man, and he let out a lot of his anger on me. And that betrayal of not having the trust and what I felt the love of, especially my father, hurt me deeply. I did not understand why I felt like he hated me. And he died very young. So I never had a chance to heal those wounds. And I became a very rebellious teenager, a lot of drugs, alcohol, addiction issues, men. And the pattern went on. And it actually went on to my older daughter, who became a heroin addict. And that point, I knew that my life was falling apart. When it goes on from generation to generation, and it will. These patterns run deep, and they go from generation to generation unless we start doing the work, unless I needed to do the work to heal myself. And once I'm healed, then my daughter can see that the healing is taking place, because addiction and betrayal, all this is a family issue. Or whether it's business or anything else, it's still it's deep in the psyche of one's being.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Of course. And it's so easy to think, here you are, you're a little girl. It's so easy to think, if you're not getting love from your dad, that it's about you. But meanwhile, it had nothing to do with you. But we interpret that and we internalize it. And then once that belief is there, it just affects everything going forward. So you're saying that's what was at the root of your addictions and some of the choices that you made?
Oh, absolutely. I felt unworthy. I didn't feel enough. I felt like I was unlovable and I couldn't love. And I was always seeking that. I felt like I had these holes in my souls and I had to fill them up with something outside of myself. So whatever it was that filled it up for the immediate gratification to feel better. So I betrayed myself. I had my parents who betrayed me. I had partners. I would choose this pattern over and over and over again. They're patterns.
And I remember you mentioning that it was so familiar.
Yes.
It was just so familiar to keep choosing these same types of people in your life, because it was just something you were so used to.
Exactly.
So, and I remember hearing a study about how it was abused babies, even though their parents were abusing them. When someone else was trying to hold them, they were reaching for the parents because those parents were so familiar, even though they were the ones causing harm. So at what point did you realize, I keep repeating this and it's not changing unless I do?
Exactly. It's so true. It was when I found out at 15 years old that she was continuing a cycle that I can't blame myself. I could go into the blame. I could do that. And I did do that for a while. Blamed myself. I felt guilty. I felt shame. I felt all those emotions that, again, really doesn't serve anyone. But they're part of the process of feeling those feelings and then working through them. But that's when I really started doing the work. I started doing it a little before. I was into it before. But once I knew that she was in trouble, I really, I always say I got down on my knees and decided to stay there because I realized that this is my child. Now it's affecting my little girl, my daughter. How can I let this go on? And I knew at that point, I really have to take a deep and be brutally honest with myself and what these patterns are doing to our family.
And you had a lot of patterns that were created that you wanted to undo. When you say doing the work, give us an example of some of the things you did.
Oh gosh, I'm still doing the work because I love it, and I'm helping others to do the work as well because it's important work. I would journal first thing in the morning, write 3 pages. Julia Cameron has something called the Artist's Way. And the first thing in the morning, just write down feelings. So it doesn't matter what it is, just get it out, in and out, just get it out. I was lucky that I always had movement. I was always a dancer. So the movement always helped me express. I would go to Al-Anon. I would go to classes. I would seek a therapist. I was going through conventional doctors and therapists as well as alternative. I did a lot of studying, took out a lot of books, saw a lot of coaches and therapists, and really did some shamanic work. Oh my gosh, what didn't I do? I mean, I really did so many modalities for healing, emotional healing.
And everything you mentioned, when you think about it, it's physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual. You were really hitting it on every level, and that's how we heal. Because what I see so often is we play this game of whack-a-mole. We have these symptoms that show up, all tied to betrayal, like let's say extreme fatigue, right? So then we'll just take something to give us energy, or to help us sleep, or we'll have, let's say, a gut issue, and we'll see an amazing gut practitioner, or just we'll see a therapist for some talk therapy. And all of these things are just trying to handle the symptoms. But you knew clearly that that these betrayals were at the root of it, and they all needed to be healed.
Absolutely. It is doing it on all levels. I take impeccable care of myself. I know what my triggers are, what my food sensitivities are. So I know to eat well, to take really good care of my health. I meditate every day. I ask for guidance every day. I have a little shrine, and I ask for guidance from Mother Earth, Father Sky. I really connect to viscerally all levels. Nature, nature lover. So I think nature is a great healer. So taking a walk, there's so many things we can do for healing, to connect.
And you do, and a lot of your work is in nature, isn't it? Something with, tell us about that.
I used to have a horticultural business for 22 years. So I was always very connected to nature. But there was a part of me that was there was a disconnect and a connect. So I had to put the pieces together. And it's sitting in silence sometimes, and just allowing things to let go, to not hold on, just to let it go, do breathing work, transformational breath, another class I took, to really go into deep levels of understanding breath work, because that breath we hold on, and we don't really realize how shallow breathing affects everything in our body. Our sympathetic nervous system gets so locked in a rigid pattern. So to really release that.
But now here, I want to get to the nitty gritty of this, because I see this with so many people struggling to heal from betrayal. It's these patterns are so familiar, and we do the work, and something may be a wonderful modality to help us heal, but there's such a fear. There's such a fear of, who will I be without this? What will happen if I let this go? What will happen if this works? And so the letting go process and the surrendering is brutal. How did you manage that?
That's a great question. Actually, I'm working with a client right now, because what I see with her is she's having such a hard time to let go, because she doesn't know who she would be. She has no identity without these traumas and without this PTSD. She doesn't know. So it's important to create your life. What do you aspire to? What do you love? What do you see? Just start writing your aspirations. Look, not even goals, but what do you want to aspire to? What makes you feel good? So ask yourself these questions. What feels good? Do you want to travel? Where would you like to go? What turns you on? So really start asking. Get a vision, to create a vision, because if without a vision, they say people perish. So it's important to have a vision to look forward, instead of going back into the same old patterns, because we're going to repeat the same old story. We ruminate. We all do it, but we have to stop ourselves and create. Who do we want to be? Because most people, for me, I had to create that. Who's the new me? Paint a picture of who you would like to be. Who do you admire? Who is it that you can aspire being like? So just get these pictures. The more pictures we can put together in our mind's eye, the more we can start to move forward and create the new person.
Right. And I love that we're talking about this, because what I've also found is, so often when we've gone through betrayal, there's no self-love, there's no sense of worthiness or confidence, or whatever it is. We have such a horrific view of ourselves, and we can't even imagine a highest and best version of us, because we don't think there's anything good worth taking into this new version. How do you work with someone on that level? What do you help them see?
That's a great question, Debbie. I like that Ho'oponopono prayer. Thank thank you. I love you. Please forgive me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just cut it down to 2 words is I love you and thank you. I love you. And I say that to myself still every night. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for showing up today. I love you. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's these words, these neural pathways are so almost hardwired that slowly we have to learn to disconnect like a wire, a plug in a wall. We have to learn to disconnect slowly. And so doing it over and over again, I love you. Doing mirror work, I love you. I love you. I still have to do it to myself because these old patterns are very insidious and they will come back. So doing it over and over, repetition is for me and for everyone. That's how we learn anything, is doing it over and over and over and over again.
And I think that's a really important point, because if the buy-in isn't there with the repetition, at least it will help. But it's so important to see that and create that version of you, because I have seen this so often where if we don't know who we'd be without it, whether it's without the weight, without the disease, without the story, it's not going anywhere.
Yep. It isn't. It's locked into our cellular memory. And as I said, I did shamanic work. I actually went to Peru, into Pucallpa, and worked with a shaman. I did ayahuasca because I really wanted to dig deep. And it's not for everyone. They're using it a lot. I think Michael Pollan has a new book out where they're using psychedelics to help addicts get out of there. But you really have to be with someone who's experienced to guide you through these rituals.
Tell us about that experience. I'm so curious. What was that like?
It was intense. It was. It's not for everyone. As I said, it is intense because ayahuasca is a mind-altering medicine. It is a medicine. I'm not saying it's a drug. It's a medicine, and it can heal traumas because you get out of your ego quickly, and it'll take you to different realms of what really is in the subconscious. It'll pop up whether you want it to or not. So you can go to some pretty dark places in there, and it could be pretty intense. That's why you need a shaman or a guide to assist you through the process of this healing.
I remember seeing a show on it once. And how long, and I was fascinated, how long did it last? Like, did that entire process last? And what did it lead to?
We did 5 rituals every other night. You need a day to really heal yourself. And the process lasts we did it at night. We went out into the Amazon. So there's no cell phones to beat me up, get me out of here. I went by myself. I really, as I said, I really wanted to experiment. I'm a risk taker in those ways. So, but I needed to heal myself in a deep level so I could do the work myself for others. And
this is an important point too. So what you're saying is the desire to heal was greater than the fear of the unknown.
And that's what you have to step out into that. You have to, unfortunately, you have to step out into the unknown if you do want to heal. And that's where the tricky part comes, because the unknown can be so uncomfortable that you'll go back to the known, even though that is so uncomfortable. At least that is familiar. And that's where people get tripped up. It's familiar, but the unknown is where all the magic's going to happen.
That's where the growth is.
That's where the growth is. That's where you're going to start to really see, I did it. Look, we're all going to die. Nobody gets out alive. And I realized that, like the Indians go through the saying, every day is a good day to die. So we have to actually die to our old self to be reborn to a new person. We got to go through that process like a caterpillar. We have to go through the metamorphosis. And that's why having a coach like you, Debi, is essential to help you through the process of moving little steps. If you can do tiny little steps every day, but we got to be committed to doing the steps every day to a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to get through it.
And It's so important what you just said. And I talk about the concept of death and rebirth, and it sounds morbid, but it's really not. You really do have to die to the life you've known.
Yes.
In order to birth something entirely new. And that's transformation. And I always picture, like, if you've seen those houses where they just keep sticking stuff on them and a new this and new that, it's like at some point, you need to just take the whole thing down and start over. And that's transformation.
That's
when you can rebuild because there's nothing there. You're willing to completely just let go of everything that you've known. And you've taken it to a whole other level when you go into the Amazon and do that kind of stuff. So what did it lead to? I mean, you left that experience. Did you have an awakening? Did you realize something? Did you realize you let something go?
I did. Ayahuasca, and if you see any drawings of the paintings in Peru from people who from the shamans and people who've gone into ayahuasca, you see the life of, you see the higher realms and the lower realms. You see the both. And that's exactly what I experienced. The first ceremony that I did, I saw God. I saw creation. I saw how everything gets manifested. And God would say to me, or spirit, whatever your belief is, just what do you want? Claim it. It's yours, but you have to know what you want and you have to claim it as yours. And I saw pictures and it was ecstasy. It was really wonderful. The next time I did it, I went the other direction. I went into the depths of the earth, the roots, and it was creepy. And I felt like I died. I felt like I was that close to death. I was shaking. I had it was a horrible experience. And I just didn't want to do it again because it was so deep and so creepy. I had to work with another shaman. We traveled deeper into the Amazon and we found a woman actually. And she was amazing. She was absolutely incredible. So when I did it again, I was able to merge the two worlds because we do have the light and we do have the dark. We have the negative and we have the positive. We have the two extremities. We live in both realms. Mm-hmm. But how do we not let the negative overtake us? And we can't always be in the positive because it just doesn't work that way. I mean, yes, we can be positive and it's our attitude. Life happens and sometimes sad things happen. But how do we navigate through this world and integrate both of them? And that's what I was able to do in the third ceremony with this woman shaman. She was able to guide me to understand every time I started going a little bit deep, I was able to pick myself up and get to the light. And really navigate through that. So it was very interesting how I was able to, I'm going down. Nope. I was able to really, under the influence, I don't like to use the word train, but I was able to lift myself to the consciousness of there's always good. Everything is always going to good. And realize that God is good. Spirit it's always for our highest revelation to aspire higher.
And I always say our biggest crisis reveals our greatest gift. And this is certainly a way to learn that. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, what's it like to reintegrate back into your regular day-to-day? Like, I have a hard time coming back from a conference. How do you take what you've experienced and move into your day? Because, here we are, spiritual beings having a human experience. How do you then again have that human experience?
Well, it's like childbirth. You forget. You forget. You go through the process and you have this amazing child that you delivered, but you forget about the pain. You forget about the all of what went through the 9 months of pregnancy and everything else. Once you start going back into your world, things look and appear again the same. And you can go back into that world, but not really unless you're there. Yeah. But so it's just a matter of coming out and realizing that, again, it's not for everyone because it is something that you do have to prepare for this.
Right. So out of all the different things that you did and modalities and physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual things that you tried, do you remember, was there something where you said, wow, this really helped me let go of old limiting beliefs? This really helped me break those connections to my past and be willing to create a new version of myself?
That's a great question. I think it's, I don't think there's any epiphany or there's any one thing that really contributed solely to it. I think it was a combination of things: being committed to the work, being really the desire to want to heal and understand, and knowing that I'm attracting everything to my life. So my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, bring it to me. So I read every day. I stay connected to this work every day, as I said, and I get more insight every day. And I realize not every day is a good day, but I know I have the insight to again navigate the days with gratitude, being grateful for being alive, and really seeing the appreciation of life. Really, I mean, I am so grateful for every day, even though things might not work out every day the way I want them to in a fantastic sense. I stay connected to gratitude. I stay connected to doing the work, being kind, being giving, paying it forward, changing humanity, understanding. I do a lot of neuroscience work now and understanding how the brain works, because I'm fascinated by this, and helping people understand. Again, understanding. When you have a concept, to understand something, you can wrap yourself around it and saying, oh, now I get it. Mm-hmm. And that's through study and studying this.
And it's also what I see so consistently. It's a willingness. It's a willingness to change your story, to use your crisis as your biggest gift. And I have to tell you, Monica, what I see with just the people who have done the work, and we coined this term post-betrayal transformation, because healing from betrayal is vastly different than healing from other types of life crises. And there's no competition here. It's just you need to rebuild trust and worthiness and confidence and all of those things that were absolutely destroyed. But what I've seen so consistently is when the work is done and when people just like you achieve this state of post-betrayal transformation, and you are such a living, breathing example of it, there's such a strength, there's such a wisdom. And from that space, there is so much to teach because of what you see now so clearly. Truly.
It's when you've been traumatized, even from an early age, and usually this is when the trauma starts and the betrayal starts, the brain shrinks and the amygdala, the brain, the fear center lights up, and you shut down. You go into that protective mode, that fight or flight or freeze, or appease, which is pleasing people, and you go into this restrictive mode, and the world becomes very scary out there, and you recreate this over and over and over again. The trust, as you're saying, is not there. To rebuild that takes a commitment and a willingness to really understand that you're not alone, number one, because so many people have gone through this. As you said, look at the crisis in the world today. Do you think not everybody is going through some kind of betrayal? Really? I mean, we have to change the paradigm. We have to change the way we think and become creative, cooperative, compassionate, and really come from the heart center. I'm learning a lot about this as a brain now. This is a brain, and connecting to that heart center. This is the first thing that lights up, that signals this part of the brain. Yeah. And going from the reptilian brain and the limbic brain to the creative brain is how we're going to evolve humanity for the generations and generations, so we can evolve into this humanitarian human to live fully in joy and happiness, which is our birthright. But we have to remember who we are. And that takes a commitment and willingness to go through the process of trusting people like yourself who are dedicating your life to helping people live this because it's so necessary.
And it's because of the work that you and the other Sheroes, the Fab 14, the women in this study, because of your contribution and theirs, that we even made these discoveries about post-betrayal syndrome and post-betrayal transformation and the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. Wow. So I'm forever, forever grateful. Monica, what do you want to make sure everyone knows before we wrap up?
That you're not alone. There's help out there. Please, please, please reach out. That's how we help each other, is by reaching out. You've got to reach out, because the minute you isolate, you go into your own thoughts, what I call the itty bitty shitty committee. and that committee is not so itty bitty. It's pretty loud, that voice between our ears to tell us that we're not good enough, we're not this enough, we're not that enough. And we all have it. It's just a matter of saying, well, thanks for sharing, but reaching out to someone. There's help out there. Please reach out. We need to support each other. And there's a lot of compassion for you out there. But the only way is when you reach out and grab somebody's hand and heart and talk about it. Communication is to come together. So communication is key.
Wonderful. And how do we learn more about you? Where do we go?
You can go to my website, monicabennett.biz, or you can email me at mb@monicabennett.biz, or call me 516-297-0672.
Oh, is your phone going to be lighting up? Wonderful. Monica, thank you so much. You are just such a bright light and a true example of post-betrayal transformation. I'm just so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so, so much.
Wow. Didn't you just love that conversation? I hope you learned that there are so many healing modalities out there, and it's very likely that it could be a combination of them that can help you heal. What's most important, though, is that it's really about the willingness to let go of your story, because that's what holds the key to your transformation. Here's my biggest takeaway. Transformation happens through consistent action, through a major shift in perspective, and through a willingness to venture into the unknown. Yes, you may think it's scary, but that's where the growth is. It's right outside your comfort zone. And if you're struggling to heal, it could be because you're stuck in a holding pattern. You may need something different to help you create a different result. Monica gave you some great examples, and maybe try one of them. You may not want to try the ayahuasca though, but something like journaling or meditation. Be sure to stay in touch with Monica. Just go to pbtinstitute.com/podcast, because we have all of her links there in the show notes. And to get a baseline for what your betrayal left in its wake, take the quiz to see to what level you're struggling with post-betrayal syndrome. And you could find that at pbtinstitute.com/quiz. And let us support you. Go to Facebook and join our group, Women Hacking Betrayal, where we give information, tools, and support to help you move forward and heal once and for all. Can't wait to be with you next time. And here's to your breakthrough.